Hello, everybody. All right, let people get in here. We have a very exciting live today. A little nervous, looking forward to it. Okay, let the peoples pile in. Hope everyone is doing well. Today, we have a very exciting guest onto my show. It's not really a show, but you know what I mean. We have the presumptive nominee to the Democratic Party in this year's presidential election coming on, Vice President Joe Biden and Dr. Joe Biden, his lovely wife. I don't know how I'm able to do this, but I am, and I'm so excited about it. So we'll let everyone kind of pile in here and get everyone involved, and then we will not make you wait too much longer. Let me find the guest. Okay. You know me, I always have issues with this. Okay, I don't think that they're in yet. I have a funny Joe Biden story about the time that Joe Biden came to the World Cup, and I didn't see him. I had no idea that he was there. Somehow snuck on. Everyone else saw him. I didn't see him. It was in 2015 in Canada. I'm wondering if he was looking for me or maybe not. Yep. This is where I always get a little bit panicky that I can't find who I'm looking for, but it's okay, it'll happen. Like somehow I did it wrong or something. Which is probably the case. Let's see. And just scrolling through the comments, seeing how everybody's doing. Journalist extraordinaire. Ha! LOL. Yeah, number 2 rated show behind a touch more. That is for sure. Okay. Oh, sirens in the background. That's sad. Find my request. Okay. Still searching. It's okay. He's going to be in here in a minute. He's very busy doing all the things that I'm going to be asking about. I mean, what a wrench in the old campaign trail here. I can't wait to see what he's been up to and how he's dealing with this moment. It's wild. Okay, let me see. Boom. I think I found. Did I or did I not find? There they are.
Hi.
How are you?
Yes.
Megan, how are you?
We have
Nice
them.
to see you.
Yes.
Hey,
Vice
look,
President
I
Joe
dyed my
Biden,
hair
Dr. Joe Biden.
purple. I dyed my hair
saw
purple. Can you
that.
see it?
I
In solidarity
thought, is that a
for pay
glare?
equity.
Ugh, I love that.
And you don't have purple hair anymore.
Can we turn this
Honey,
on?
this hair is like 2 months into COVID, and it is doing its own thing, and it has its own mind.
Well, I actually hope this washes out.
Yeah, it will. It does. After a few washes, it washes out.
And by the way, you've made me a hero.
Oh,
No, I'm serious. My number 3 granddaughter, all the athletes in the family are the daughters. I was a pretty good athlete, but the athletes are the granddaughters. And she is a soccer player, all-state in soccer and all-state in lacrosse. So I gave her the shirt you guys signed. I gave her the
Yes.
shirt. You probably can't see it. And
No,
she's
I
wearing
can.
it. And I said, what are the 2 most exciting things that you remember? She said, well, we went to the final, Pop. And she said, when Carly scored from midfield, that was it. And she said, and then in the finals,
Unbelievable.
she said, Megan scored 2 goals that won the final round. She said, she's an avid, you made me a hero. I hope she's listening.
Well, that's my funny story about, well, I didn't really meet you for the first time, but in 2015, you guys came. I think you brought Sasha and Malia, brought the Obama kids, and you came out onto the field after the game. I don't know where I was or what I was doing, but we all got back in the locker room, and they were like, Vice President Joe Biden and his wife were there, and everybody's talking about it. And I was like, where was I? I didn't see you. Still to this day, I have no recollection of you actually on the. And I'm like, how did I miss everyone? I missed the Secret Service.
You probably can't see it. This is the picture of us coming off the field with our granddaughter.
Yeah, I don't know how
that was a real treat. Anyway,
I know. Anyways, I wanted to go to that White House, so we met you eventually at the White House. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much. I mean, this is an honor for me, obviously, having the presumptive Democratic nominee. Congratulations, by the way, for winning the nomination.
Well, thank you. A lot of good people joined.
Your lovely wife, Dr. Joe Biden. We're so happy to have both of you guys on. This is so exciting.
Thank you.
How are you guys? How are you holding up? How is everything?
Well, thank God. Well,
we're busy. I mean, we're campaigning, through Zoom and in the house we have a studio downstairs, and so we're busy. I mean, from morning till night we're on some show or speaking to.
And we have our masks when we walk out the front door. I've not left the yard yet. The Secret Service is out there, but I always have my mask on, except when I'm next to Jill. For the 2 of us at home here, and our kids. Anyway, we keep in touch. We have we do a live chat once a week with the whole family, and we talk to my granddaughters every day. We got 2 children, one in California, one in Florida, and we have 6 grandchildren. We just had a new baby, a little boy. But the 5 girls and 4 girls and 1 boy, 2 of them live about 3/4 mile away. So they come walking through the woods, and when it's not windy and rainy like today here, we bribe them with Haagen-Dazs ice cream. They sit in the yard, and I sit in the porch, and we talk.
Yeah. Keep your distance, but do the little drive-bys. That's the best.
Right.
The best way to do it.
That
was going to be my first question. How are you campaigning during COVID? Obviously, everything has changed about this. How are you campaigning? What do you miss about the campaign trail for both of these? And how is all of this, affecting the way that you're talking about policy and really the priority of which policies you're talking about?
Well, it's first of all, I miss seeing people. For me, looking in someone's eye and hearing their concerns and stories, that's how I get my information, and that's what I like the best. And but it's strange. We've adopted to this means of communication. So far, they tell us. I asked them to write that down. I forget how many people. They said I think it was 91,000 people, 95 million people have viewed the video content what we've done since mid-March. So it's getting through. It's harder to talk about the issues that are of grave concern to me: climate change, education, helping students with debt, making sure we rebuild the middle class and bring everybody along, healthcare. But because COVID has taken over so much of it, and to be blunt with you, I don't want to be constantly criticizing the president because I want to get things done. But I've been very disappointed in how slow and lackluster his response to this has been, and how many people I think were hurt as a consequence.
But one thing I think this pandemic has shown is really the inequities that exist throughout the United States. And you know, I'm a teacher, and I hear from my students all the time, and a lot of them don't have computers, and all across America, a lot of kids don't have access to the internet and broadband, and you know, the inequities in healthcare. And look at the rural areas and how they're suffering. And we just spoke to President Nez of the Navajo Nation, and he was saying how, you know, so many people don't even have water and electricity, you know, much less a computer. So one thing that has pointed out is we have a lot of work. There's a lot of work to be done. And that's why Joe has to be president. That's why we've got to fight so hard, and we're counting on you to join us and be by our side and get the message out there.
What are you hearing? Because
Yeah.
you're not only a great athlete, you're a great leader. You're an icon. People want to know what kind of, no, I really mean it. Well, what are you hearing from people?
You know, honestly, I feel like the way I'm approaching this, and you know, I got involved in the race pretty early on. I endorsed Elizabeth Warren.
She's a good person.
And you've adopted a number of her policies. You know how wonderful she is. But what I'm most focused on, I think, is the policy. I feel like that's what I'm sort of geeking out about, is that, you know, the presidency, it only lasts for a finite amount of time, but the policies will have generational effects. And so I feel like I'm trying to, not only myself, but to get the message out there that the policies really are the most important thing. And I think this will be the most progressive platform that any Democrat has run on. And certainly the more left wing of the party has pushed you a little bit on some of the policies, which I think is really important. It signals to all of us that the party is unified, and that we're going to come together. And it may not be every single thing that you want in every aspect, but it's going to be wholly like what we can get done and what we most need. I feel like healthcare, even before this,
Sure.
you know, was already glaring, but it's very glaring now. You know, inequality when it comes to racial division. We're seeing, you know, communities of color, Black and brown communities, Native American communities, immigrant communities being disproportionately affected by this. And education. I think that you know, I'm seeing all my friends having to teach their kids, and you know, what is the best way to do that, and how can we do that with the system, frankly, that needed some improvement anyway. So, Joe, I'm interested, Vice President, what do you feel like are going to be the most important policies coming out of this? And then, Dr. Joe, if you can talk a little bit on what are we learning about education now, and maybe how can we use this time to reform coming out of COVID, whenever that may be, because I think our society is going to look quite different for a long time.
Yeah.
Well, look, I really believe, Megan, we're the only country in the world, as a student of history, we're the only country in the world that's gone through great crises and come out stronger as a consequence. Because, you know, when I announced I was running, I said I was wanting to restore the soul of America, because the president has become so divisive in terms of everything he's done, based on race, sexual preference, just across the board, pitting people against one another. But what we're seeing now in this crisis is the soul of the country. Look at what you're seeing from ordinary, God-fearing people who come out and they're risking their lives every day. We've now lost 60,000 lives.
Yeah.
And a number of those people are out trying to save other people. And we can't think of this as 60,000. That's one person at a time. Every single one of them leaves behind somebody or something. And I think it's going to allow us the opportunity to rebuild the infrastructure of this country in a way that has been broken. For example, I don't hear people saying anymore, by the way, that grocery store clerk who used to hand me my food that got COVID, was she black? Was she white? Was she gay? Was she straight? Was she Asian? You don't hear that. People are just jumping in and doing whatever has to be done. So I think there's an enormous opportunity to take this country and rebuild it in a way that brings everybody along. And that's not hyperbole. I've talked a lot with Elizabeth about this. For example, I think that we have to, first of all, stimulate the economy so people just don't keep falling in these god-awful holes that the president is not paying any attention and trying to fill. Beyond that, we have to then get to recovery. I ran that Recovery Act of $800 billion last time we were in a financial crisis, and it takes day-to-day operation with significant oversight. But here's the deal. We can rebuild this country in a way, creating jobs by having a new green economy. What I proposed, and most of the environmental groups have supported, and everybody's now on board on, is we can, in fact, create 10 million good paying jobs, not 15 bucks an hour. We have to raise the minimum wage of that to begin with, but we can create good middle class jobs, and this time bring everybody along with it. In the same way that, look, last thing I'll say, I'm going on too long, I get too
No, this is
involved.
great.
But here's the deal. Think about this. You know, the generation from the Generation Z, they call it now, from 14 years old on, but people between 18 and 32 who are getting out of school or been out of school, they've really gotten kicked in the teeth during their time. The younger generation has been clobbered. They got clobbered, first of all, by 9/11, then the war, then the Great Recession. All those jobs they thought were there after they graduated or got their apprenticeships done weren't there. It took us 5 years to rebuild it back up, and then we began to grow, and now this hits. I mean, for example, I'm supposed to be the commencement speaker at my eldest granddaughter's graduation of Columbia Law School. There's no graduation. And a lot of the kids are wondering, for all these people graduating, they're wondering, is there going to be school next year? Are we going to have to take a gap year? Where's my job? What am I going to be able to do? How do I pay off my student loan? That's why, for example, we should be forgiving right now $10,000 right off the bat in this stimulus for everybody who has a student loan, and keep going from there. We should have free 4-year college, free community college. And I think people are now ready. I think they're ready like they weren't 2, 3, 5 years ago. And I think Elizabeth and Bernie and others deserve a lot of credit.
I do too. I think we're at a really, you know, this is obviously a horrible tragedy. You know, I mean, it's literally a global pandemic. It's like there's no other way to say it. It's you know, it's no one's fault per se, but it has provided us this opportunity to see a lot of the Republican politics for what they are. I think things have been laid very bare during these times, and people are like, oh, okay, oh, we did find the money to have a stimulus package. That we could have done that for healthcare. We could have done that for, you know, universal education, for universal childcare, for all these things. So the money's bare, and I feel like a lot of these politics are laid bare. And I also feel like we're in this time where we have been given, if you look at it this way, this incredible gift to move forward. It's almost like everything is shut down. Everybody's shut down right now. And how do we move forward with them? It's going to have to look different. There's no going back to pre-COVID. That time doesn't exist. When we start to, you know, lift out of these stay-at-home orders, everything will have to look different. So we're going to have to reimagine things. So that's what I'm most excited about. And I think, you know, kind of touching on what you were just saying, I think the younger generation, the Gen Z, you say they've been hit, and they're probably wondering, like, American dream, what is that? You look at, you know, women of color, people of color, immigrants, they're saying, like, where is this American dream? So I feel like you have this unique opportunity to recreate or create maybe for the first time an American dream that does take into account all people. And I think that needs to start with education. Jill, I think if you can jump in here and just talk about how we can reshape our education and then kind of moving in to the public colleges and being able to, you know, under a certain threshold, I think it's $125,000 a year for a family, you get your college paid for. So these kids can have a path forward into something that we can really be proud of and call the American dream.
Well, you know, Megan, I think you used the right word, and the word is opportunity. This is an opportunity for us to change so many systems, and one of those is the education system. And like I mentioned before, there's so much inequity. And one of the things Joe is going to do is give all children the chance to begin education with universal pre-K all the way up to free community college, you know, where I teach, and I've been pushing that since we've been in the Obama-Biden administration. But we have to give our teachers the tools. And that doesn't mean just the technology.
Yeah.
These children are going to come from homes where they face food insecurity, anxiety, depression. We need to pour so much more money into the infrastructure in our schools. We need to pour so much more money into mental health. It's going to be such a big problem, I think. So the teachers who are trying to teach math or English are also going to have to, you know, create a safe space for all students where they feel that they have a place in the schools. And the teachers are going to have to be like social workers on top of teaching their subject area expertise.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to really give our teachers the tool. And one of the great things, I think, that now that parents are helping their students, are helping their kids at home, is like, this job is hard. And it is a hard job. And so I think now teachers are going to be celebrated for all the wonderful things they do. And what greater gift can we give to parents? You know, that teachers love their children. And that means that they give them, you know, knowledge, they give them support, they give them love, they give them food, whatever they need. Teachers are there to supply it for their students. So,
well, can I add something to that? One of the things.
okay.
No,
I
no.
guess.
By the way, if I tell you what, if I don't support teachers fully and immediately get rid of the present Secretary of Education, I'm going to be sleeping in the Lincoln bedroom all by myself. Okay, so this
You may be there anyway.
Teaching is not what Jill does; it's who she is. But look. Talk about inequity. Title I schools, that you know, they're the schools, some low-income neighborhoods with low tax bases, okay? Now, what all the study, we've learned a lot in the last 6 or 8 years by the studies coming out of the great universities. They show if you put a child at 3 years of age, 4 years of age, and 5 years of age in full-time school, not daycare, full-time school, you increase by over 58% the prospect that they will catch up immediately and they will be able to go all the way through 12 years of school, beyond that, and beyond either an apprenticeship or to college. Secondly, right now, we all knew that low-income districts needed more money. So there's a thing called Title I. They're labeled a Title I school. What happens is they now get $15 billion a year spread over the whole nation to help Title I schools. I increased that to $45 billion. We can easily afford that, by the way, an additional $30 billion. And what that does, first of all, raises teachers' pay. The lowest paid, you can graduate magna cum laude from a great university, and you're going to get paid 23% lower than everybody else you graduate with if you were in education, number one. So we already are short 115,000 teachers in America.
Yeah.
By 2024, that is going to be 250,000. So we have to raise teachers' pay. The other thing we do
Add
is
more teachers of color.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And in addition, I'm sorry to go be so pedantic, but this, if you only had $1 to spend, I'd spend it on the front end, not the back end. If you only had $1. Here's what I mean by that. If you take a look, we now have one school psychologist for every 1,507 children in school. All the experts said that should be 500 to 750. I'm going to double the number of the people that money has to be spent to get school psychologists and social workers in the school. You can't expect Jill, when she taught in high school and she taught English and she taught reading, to also be a school psychologist and a sociologist. And so the teachers need more space to teach. And lastly, they need to affect their curricula. The curricula. They get to, so the next person is going to be as Secretary of Education will be someone who literally taught in the public school system.
Yes.
Yeah. A little experience never hurt anyone, contrary to what's happening right now. I think we're seeing that at full tilt. Okay, so speaking of taking care of everyone, we are fast approaching, and in some states this is shockingly already happening, of reopening. The Obama Biden administration went through a pandemic and the Ebola crisis. How should we be looking at this in terms of what is the federal government responsible for? What are the states responsible for? And what are your thoughts on, as we start coming out of this, what are the most important things that we really need to be aware of as a population? Of course, the government, the news, we're going to hear what we're going to hear, but speaking from your experience and having dealt with this, what is something that we just need to be aware of, and how are we going to safely reopen?
First and foremost, as President of the United States, you have to take responsibility. Take responsibility. This is a national crisis. He's the commander in chief, and he said it's like we're at war, and we are. But guess what? All of our colonels and our generals and our sergeants, they're doctors, nurses, first responders, firefighters, etc. And they're getting left behind. He was warned all the way back in January. I'll be very blunt about it, by me in January the 17th, writing an article saying the pandemic's coming. Barack and President Obama and the team, we left behind a blueprint as to how to move forward. We had a pandemic office in the White House. In addition to that, we're now learning that the intelligence community and what they call the PDB, the Presidential Daily Briefing, that takes place every day with the president and the vice president and the national security people, warned him on at least 6 occasions until they started getting fired, that a pandemic was coming. This was all the way back after they got elected. He ignored it. This is not about him. It's about you. It's about the public, number one. Number two, you have to listen to the scientist. Listen to the science. I really mean it. It sounds so simple to say, but think about it. What has he done from the time he's taken office? He has disregarded and just dismissed the
Let's
science.
not talk about him.
No,
Let's
no,
talk
no,
about
no.
us
No,
and
no.
what we're going to do going forward.
No, but here's my point. So what you have to do is I think what you should be doing is stop talking, let the scientists talk, let Dr. Fauci talk, let the rest of them talk.
Yeah, everybody loves Fauci. Let Fauci
I
talk.
know.
Well, by the way, and because he knows what he's talking about.
Exactly.
He knows every single morning I have an hour and 15-minute brief with docs on the phone. And they lay out what was going to come. But here's the other thing. We have to lead the world. What Barack did in the Ebola pandemic, we went there. We had the United States, a guy who used to be my chief of staff, Ron Klain, got put in charge of dealing with that pandemic. And guess what? We kept it there. We did not, when we left office, we had, for example, the CDC had people in other countries anticipating so they'd see when a pandemic was coming. We had people in China. We had people in other countries. They brought them home. And so we have to focus on, we have an international responsibility for our own safety's sake, and we should be listening to the science. I don't think you should be eliminating social distancing, as the scientists I talk to, until you've got the curve coming down, and then only in circumstances where you know you can have spacing that allows you to increase the prospect that you will not be able to communicate the virus. But the single most important thing is testing. Testing. You've got to be able to test. And think about this. The president was warned about this early on. I wrote a report. Anyway, I won't talk about me, but here's the point. It's just because we call this great disparity. 6 times as many people of color are dying, and 3 times as many people of color are getting the virus. Why is that occurring? Because we're not paying attention. And we need somebody who's literally like the United States military. We need somebody who's a commander of supplies and knows what all is needed, controls it all, just like you would in a war. Mm-hmm. There's so many things we can do. We will get through this. We will get through this. But we wasted so much time, and so many people have been hurt in the meantime. but there's a lot we can do. I would go very, very slow, very slowly on opening up. And I would do it only in a circumstance where you can be sure, not you're never sure, where before you start, you've leveled off the curve, it's going down, and you provide for significant distancing in whatever enterprise. Opening massage parlors and barbershops, and that's pretty tough stuff.
We don't want any part of that. Nope. I think too, the thing that's become so clear in this moment, and it extrapolates beyond just the virus, is that in order for us to get through this, we have to do it together.
Yeah.
And I think about that, whether that's social distancing or stepping the guidelines out or being coordinated as state governments and as states start to open up with the federal government. And then beyond that, we're looking, towards really, frankly, bringing our country, together in so many ways. And looking to November, you're going to have to, campaign all throughout the reopening of this and through the summer and eventually into November. And you have a big task at hand to bring together, the Democratic Party, but really beyond that, bring together the American people. What is your message to them in terms, not just during this crisis, but in terms of leading us out of this period where, frankly, it's been very difficult. It's been saddening. It's been hard for people. There's a sense of grief that I'm feeling that goes beyond just the pandemic. There's a greater need for empathy for people and for understanding each other and for realizing that in the absence of us all doing this together, we're just imploding right next to each other. So how do you plan to not only, mobilize the Democratic Party? Obviously, you've gotten the endorsements from Bernie Sanders and from Elizabeth Warren, former President Barack Obama. How do you plan to bring together the Democratic Party, but also beyond that and giving people something more than just vote for the Democrats because they're against the Republicans? Let's do this together. And how do we plan to do that?
This is so much bigger than the Democratic Party. And you may remember in the first debate over a year ago, I've been saying this. 3 things. 1, we got to restore the soul of this country. Stop pitting people against one another. Number 2, we have to rebuild the backbone of the country. This time, bring everybody along. That's the middle class and access to the middle class. And thirdly, we have to unite the country, including Republicans and Democrats. You may remember, I used to get the living devil kicked out of me in the debates by Biden saying he has to unite the country. I'm convinced that we can bring independents and Republicans along. Not all of them, but I'm convinced there are a dozen Republican senators and more congresspersons and independents who will join because they've been intimidated, many of them, by this president. And when he's out of the way, I think things begin to change. They know better. They know better. And one of the things you said early on, you said there's so much at stake. One of the most important things at stake, and the reason why we have to win back the United States Senate, and I think we will, is that the Supreme Court of the United States and all the courts are at stake because they last long after presidents last. They last for a generation. And it's an important thing we have to do. But in the meantime, I'm finding that, they said that, you can't bring people together. That was the old days. Well, even after the president won the election before he got sworn in, I was able to convince Republicans and Democrats to join, and we passed the Cures Act, which put another almost $9 billion in working on fighting cancer and the like. There are a lot of things we can agree on. Compromise is not a dirty word. Principle is required, but compromise is not a dirty word. And lastly, because I think this is the most important thing of bringing the country together, when we've been together, we have never failed to accomplish our goal. Never. Not one single time in our history. But here's the deal. What's happened in the Democratic Party is so gratifying. Not only has Elizabeth, who I speak with all the time, Bernie and the others, endorsed, but every single person who ran that time is not only endorsed, they've been fully engaged. They're out raising money independently for my campaign. They're doing town halls, virtual town halls. They're engaged with us, and every day we've set up a set of 6 committees with Bernie and our people to lay out how we're going to go forward on each of the issues, from everything from criminal justice reform to education to environment and the rest. And so I see the party coming together. This is not about me. It really isn't. This is character is on the ballot. This is so much bigger than our party. It's about the future of the country. Because unless we change 4 more years of this man, we're going to be completely isolated in the world. You're going to see the end of our alliances, not a joke, the end of our alliances. We're already seeing it happen now. And we're going to be in more jeopardy, as well as, look, this in the middle of this, what's he doing? He's still in federal court trying to get rid of Obamacare. I mean, come on.
Yeah, this is going to take a lot of healing to, put this nation back together. But I think Americans are up to it. They're ready to move on. They're ready to move forward. They're ready to accept change. And I think, and like you're saying, all the Democrats came together, which was really such a beautiful thing that they all pulled together to move forward. And I think that's
they did it early.
what this is about.
And the other thing I'm telling you is, I'm speaking to a lot of Republicans, former colleagues, who are calling and saying, Joe, you win, we're going to help. Matter of fact, there's some major Republicans already forming Republicans for Biden, major office holders and people, and so there's a desperate need. Everybody knows, look, I'll conclude with this. Our politics is broken. It's ugly. It's become venal. It's all personal. And I learned a long time ago, not a joke, when I first got to the Senate, before I met Jill, and my first wife and daughter were killed in an automobile accident. My 2 sons were badly injured, and they were hospitalized for a long time. I didn't want to be sworn in as a senator. That happened between the time I got elected on November 3rd and the accident on December 19th. But a group of senators, Democrat and Republican, came to me and said, come, please come down, just stay 6 months. Help us organize. I was so dumb, I didn't know they did need me to organize. But in the meantime, I would go once a week to speak to a guy named Mike Mansfield, who was the majority leader. They called him Iron Mike from Montana, a man of great integrity. And it took me about 5 weeks to realize he was just taking my pulse. He wasn't, I was, give me an assignment. I thought all senators got assignments. No senator gets an assignment. But about 5 weeks in, I realized what he was just being nice to me. And so I met with him every Tuesday about 3 o'clock. And because my boys were still in trouble, I'd take the train home. So I'd walk in, go down to the well of the Senate, find out when the last vote was going to be, do my meeting, and get in the train to go home, which I did for 36 years. In the meantime, I walk in one day, and 2 of my friends, one who's still my friend, Bob Dole, was in tough shape, and Teddy Kennedy, who's a very close friend, were being excoriated by a conservative senator because they were introduced the Americans with Disabilities Act as a precursor to it. And I thought, what a heartless person this is. So I guess I looked sad or mad when I walked in, and the leader looked at me and he said, what's the matter, Joe? And I told him, I said, so-and-so has no social redeeming value. I don't understand how he can be so mean and da-da. And I went after his motive. And he looked at me and he said, Joe, I said, what would you say if I told you that senator and his wife 2 years ago, sitting in their home reading a statewide paper, saw a picture of a young man in braces from under his arms down to his ankles and 2 steel crutches, saying, all I want for Christmas is someone to love me and take me home. So what would you say if I told you they adopted that child? I said, my God, I'd feel stupid. He said, Joe, it's always appropriate to question another man or woman's judgment. It's never appropriate to question their motive, because you're never sure, and even once you question motive, you can't get anything done. I say you're in the pocket of, you're a cheat, you're a, that I'm not, by the way, let's do something about healthcare. So my point is, I think we have to change the politics, and we can. The public is sick and tired of the meanness.
Well, I think that this whole crisis has given us a better, and maybe just a wake-up call and appreciation for each other and what it means to come together as a country. We've seen, our essential workers who have so many times been deemed not just unessential, but, not valuable or not having value. And now they're literally, the people that are saving our lives. They're saving our parents' lives. They're, you know, delivering our food. They're cleaning the hospitals. They're the ones that are out there sacrificing everything so that we're able to stay home and stay safe. And I feel like this time has given us maybe just a pause or a step back, a little bit of perspective to say, we don't have to live like this. It doesn't have to be this way. We have choices in this matter. And I hope people are inspired and motivated to get involved in this election moving forward, because I think that there is a candidate in you that is looking to bring people together, and there's a candidate whose sole purpose is to divide us so he can stand on top of us both. And I think that's become very clear through this whole crisis, and I hope people feel the same. And I don't want to put you on the spot. I think I could still play soccer and do this, but if you need a vice president, I'm just saying I'm available for an interview. We can talk logistics and, you know, the details, but put it on your list.
I would love that.
It's no pressure.
I'd love that too. And guess what? My granddaughter would love it. She's playing anyway. Maisie would love that. But look,
every young girl in this country is saying, yes, choose her, choose Megan.
And by the way, Megan, think what you've done though, Megan.
Yeah, you've done a great job.
Megan, it's a team. I wasn't near the athlete you were, but I played in high school and college. I wasn't bad. But it's all about a team.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is about a team. And you get it. And you treat the other teammates with respect. I really mean it. I mean, it's a gigantic thing.
Yeah.
You know, I was thanking a guy putting up a generator after that storm that ruined everything down in Puerto Rico in the south. And he was in a bucket, you know, one of those buckets up, putting up and I pulled into this gas station. He was in the corner. I got out and walked over and said, hey, man, thanks. He brought down his bucket. He said, what'd you say to me, man? I said, thanks. He said, you screwing with me? I said, no, thanks. I give my word. This is a true story. He looked at me and said, no one's ever thanked me before. Think about it. When's the last time someone walked out in the middle of a storm and thanked somebody for keeping the gutter open in the front of their house so their basement didn't flood? When's the last time you stopped and that guy's struggling? That anyway, you get it. And watch how you work. No, I mean on a field, it's not. It's the same principles. And besides that, you would have to take a pay cut to become vice president. But look,
I'm not into
joking.
that.
You guys should, in fact, and I've spoken that, there is not a single reason, Phoebe, you should not get the same. I'm sorry, she said don't point. She's right. But
you can point for this one.
I have to keep him under control.
You should get the same pay your colleagues that men get.
Yeah,
Not a joke. We've been hollering about that for a long time. God love it.
Keep fighting.
Always. That's all we can do. It's if anything, this time has brought us back to the real truth in that we're all on the same team. And I think if we all fight for each other, then we'll be in a better place. And I'm certainly Team Biden heading into this election. Any way that we can support and get behind you.
From Delaware.
Oh,
you know Elaine Deladon, the ball player.
All right.
Playing the WNBA. She's as good as you are in soccer.
I know. Deladon. I'll have to take that up with Sue.
Team America.
God love you.
We're so thankful. Thank you guys so much for taking the time. I'm sure you have a bunch of interviews and calls after this, but we're so thankful for not only speaking to me, but to the American people and just being a steady voice and a positive voice through all this time. We wish you all the best, Team Biden.
Thank you.
Let's get after this election.
All right. Love you, kiddo. Thanks a million. You're the best.
Thanks.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Very good.